Alright, let's talk about Lhurgoyfs, Modern Horizons 3, and the new preview card, Disa the Restless. So first of all, who is Disa the Restless? Disa is a deep-cut character from the Ice Age. She appeared in some of the early Ice Age comics, and also in a short story called The Feast of Kjeld. Or Kjeld? I'm never sure if you're supposed to pronounce the J. Her husband was Kolbjorn, the elder druid of the Juniper Order of the time. Now, this is a group of people from the forests during the Ice Age. Eventually, they end up on Yavimaya, but at the time, they're in a forest called Findhorn. And they're a sort of alliance of humans and elves who believe in protecting the sanctity of nature. Disa and Kolbjorn adopt Kesa, who is a later elder druid. She succeeds her adoptive father. Basically, the elder druids are all born with this green crescent moon shape on their face somewhere, and Kesa was the next one. Now let's talk about Lhurgoyfs, who look like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things. In fact, wasn't it the Duffer Brothers originally wanted to have like magic feature into Stranger Things until they realized it didn't fit the time period? Because this looks a lot like the Demogorgon. In any case, this is a really iconic card from early Magic. It was very powerful, and so it got a lot of references over the years. A Lhurgoyf is sort of a predatory monster that lived during the Ice Age and still lives on Dominaria. While they are hunters, they are also carrion feeders. Hence the creature types and graveyard thing, and they also get stronger the more they eat. While we had a few Lhurgoyfs over time, the next one to make a huge splash was Tarmogoyf, which was just absolutely insane in tournament play for a very long time, including in Modern. That's a big reason why Disa references Tarmogoyfs. Now, I'm not a Modern player, so I'm only remembering what has happened in the 20 years I've been playing Magic. We know for a fact Lhurgoyfs are still around in Magic. We saw Urborg Lhurgoyf in Dominaria United. Now, we genuinely don't have a lot of lore on the Lhurgoyfs. Most of what we know about them, in fact, comes from the Duelist number 27, where Pete Venters, who was at one point in charge of continuity, talked a little bit about them. There's very little here except that the Lhurgoyfs still survived and moved up north into the Arctic regions of Dominaria. There's also a short story about them in the Monsters of Magic, which I actually just reread this morning. In this story, a pair of Balduvian barbarians from the Ice Age sneak into a Lhurgoyf den, kill the Lhurgoyf that's there, and steal a bunch of gems. That Lhurgoyf's mate comes back to the den to find its mate dead, and goes on a rampage and ends up killing a lot of people, including Safi Eriksdotter, who warns her brother to get away. She's the one from the flavor text down here. She appeared in Time Spiral with a lot of other characters that had just it was an excuse to give old characters cards that didn't have them before, whether or not it makes sense for them to appear in the future. Presumably, they all went back. And then her newer card doesn't really reflect that. Instead, it matches up with her brother's card, Hans Eriksson. Amusingly, Hans is completely different looking in the short story that I read. He's like 110 pounds and barely 6 feet tall. But that's neither here nor there. Retconning a character appearance from a 25-year-old novel, not really a big deal. At the end of the story, Jaya Ballard herself intervenes and uses magic that's implied to be from Joda to give the Lhurgoyf a sentience and a conscience. And the Lhurgoyf realizes what it's done, killing so many people, and it's left their families without their mates or fathers or whatever. But it also turns out that the gems that the thieves stole are in fact Lhurgoyf eggs. The Lhurgoyf can't care for all of its eggs now that they've been returned with its mate gone, and so it gives one to Jaya. And Jaya says she knows someone who can take care of it, and hopefully he'll recharge the magic amulet she used to give this Lhurgoyf sentience in the process. The implication being, it's Joda. Meanwhile, at the end of the story, the surviving thief is revealed to have base animalistic impulses now, implying that the amulet kind of switched his consciousness with the Lhurgoyfs, giving the Lhurgoyf intelligence and conscience while removing the thieves and just turning him into a base creature. Now, while Disa herself doesn't have a strong connection to Lhurgoyfs, it does kind of make sense. She's a very famous naturalist and explorer from the Ice Age. I'm only picking 2 cards, but she explores as far west as Yavimaya during the Ice Age. But there's some 10 plus flavor texts that feature her, and they talk about her journey throughout Teresier. And that is everything we know about Lhurgoyfs.